Hi, my name is Galen Bowers, and I'm the treasurer for the Minnesota Conference. Over the past 4 years, one of our greatest blessings has been the continued faithfulness of our members in returning the tithe, even during seasons marked by economic uncertainty and rising costs. God's people in Minnesota have remained committed to supporting His work. In addition to tithe, we have experienced God's provisions through alternative forms of income, including special donations, gifts in kind, asset maturities, and generous contributions of time and service. These expressions of faithfulness are meaningful reminders that the Lord continues to sustain His mission in many ways. At the same time, though, it is important that we understand the broader financial environment in which we are operating. As the conference treasurer, it is incumbent on me to ensure that we communicate as transparently as possible on how the funds you provide are used within the conference. Following COVID-19, the North American Division implemented significant cost of living adjustments across the territory in an effort to respond to national inflation. Over this quadrennium, salaries and wages increased 19.5%. But let's be clear, despite significant increases in salaries and wages, church compensation falls well below the state average. During that same period, total conference expenses increased 9.57%, while tithe increased 4.46%. While we are grateful that tithe is growing, it has not kept pace with inflation or with compensation adjustments. In practical terms, our expenses are increasing at a faster rate than our income. To understand this financial tension more clearly, it is important to understand where our income comes from and how it is used. Tithe is sacred and restricted in its use. It may only be used for ministry-related expenses, including pastor salaries, ministerial wages, and benefits. Additionally, only 30% of elementary school operating budgets may be funded through tithe. The remaining 70% comes from non-tithe sources. One way we evaluate giving trends is through tithe per capita, calculated by dividing total tithe by total membership. As of December 31st, 2025, our tithe per capita was slightly more than $900 per member per year. However, membership figures do not fully reflect giving realities. Of our approximately 12,000 members, an estimated 28 to 32% return a faithful tithe. Less than 50% actively attend church, and a smaller percentage are both actively involved and returning tithe. Additionally, membership totals do not represent households. If tithe were divided by households rather than individual members, the per household figure would be significantly higher. These nuances are important when interpreting financial data. The primary source of non-tithe income is Minnesota Ministries, which supports school operations, North Star Camp facilities, general evangelism and communications and administration, church buildings and secondary school projects. During the special constituency session that was held on January 18th for Maplewood Academy, we shared the long-term financial pattern of Maplewood Academy and showed its consistent shortfalls. Maplewood Academy is a significant ministry of the conference at large, not a local church school. This means that when Maplewood struggles, we also struggle. Over the past 4 years, the conference has given more than $500,000 per year to the Academy to ensure its continued operation. And because we value Adventist education and preparing our youth for eternity, we are committed to strengthening the financial well-being of the Academy. From 2022 to 2025, donations to Minnesota Ministries have largely remained flat, despite increasing demands and rising costs. When non-tithe giving does not increase, the conference has limited flexibility to fund these essential ministries. Following COVID-19, the North American Division created a new policy for all Adventist entities to maintain at least 6 months of cash reserves. This policy's goal is to strengthen long-term financial stability and ensure operational continuity during economic disruption. While this is a prudent safeguard, it also reinforces the need for careful financial planning and responsible expense management. The Conference Board of Trustees voted to implement a 3-month or 90-day reserve, rather than the 6-month full reserve. What that means in dollar values is that's $4.5 million that we would have to have in reserve. Given the very small margins our organization works within, getting to 6 months reserves would be incredibly difficult, without significant cutbacks that would negatively impact mission. The financial realities we face are not the result of declining faithfulness. Rather, they reflect broader economic pressures, restricted funding structures, and inflationary impacts that have affected organizations everywhere. We remain committed to responsible stewardship, transparent reporting, and supporting the mission God has entrusted us with. With continued faithfulness, wise planning, and trust in God's provision, we believe He will continue to guide and sustain His work in Minnesota.